All right. Shit, I'm supposed to do an intro, aren't I? I can clip this shit. I can crop it.
CTV bought Hockey Night Canada's theme song, so it's owned by CTV.
Well, there's CTV vans
Do
in
they have to
Kingston
pay
all the
rent on
time.
their own theme song?
CBC does, yeah.
Holy cucked. Yeah, CTV's always coming through Kingston. I'll just ask them if I can use the theme song.
I have an idea where we just AI auto-generate like an 8-bit communist version of the Hockey Night in Canada.
What if we just pitch it
and
up
just
and down at random?
see what the AI comes up with.
What if we just pitch it up and down at random?
With each episode having a different random.
Just make it out of tune.
Yeah, here's the headline.
Hockey Night in Canada is over thanks to licensing spat. It's
Spat?
so fucking Jover. It's so fucking Jover. Hey,
Who
well,
watched
if we
Hockey
want
Night
to
in
start with
Canada
that,
anyways?
if we want to start with Canadian news, it looks like what Vegas versus Florida. How's that going, Shrey?
Vegas is winning. Vegas has more Canadian players than Florida, so Vegas is gonna win.
Well, Florida did ban Canadians from their stadium.
Yeah.
Latest standings: Golden Knights are up 2-1. Dark days in hockey, as only Sunbelt teams were left for the semifinals.
Oh my god.
Well, the first order of serious business: Canadian Wildfires. Canada is in international news, which is never good. New York City, Philadelphia have some of the worst air quality of any cities in the world right now because of Quebec wildfires that are out of control. Although Quebec has claimed they are getting them under control.
I don't believe them. I'm not buying it.
Well,
I'd say though, I'm kind of enjoying these wildfires because I'm a bit of a spa baby, and whenever I go outside now, the kind of smoky wood smell.
I do love the
it's just
smell.
delicious.
I love the smell. If I'm being honest, when I went out, it was like, damn. It looks apocalyptic right now, but it smells amazing.
Well, the
Yeah.
GTA is really good because GTA it doesn't look like there's much outside. Like it's fairly clear, but it smells amazing.
Yeah, it smells great. I don't know what these Yankees are complaining about. It's not like their country's on fire.
I do love the idea that we can just like nuke New York and then claim that it's nature and just get away with it.
Hey, listen, it's their problem. I fail to see how that's my problem.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, wildfires have erupted in British Columbia, where temperatures have reached 30 degrees Celsius, 10 degrees over the June average.
Damn.
Wait, sorry, they went on fire at 30 degrees?
Temperatures have reached 30 degrees in British Columbia, a dry heat, and now they're getting struck by wildfires.
So what American cities are we about to be nuking next?
I guess.
Seattle,
Well,
LA.
the affected area is close enough to Dawson City, which is in.
Oh.
Or is that the Yukon?
Yeah, that's where Trump's grandfather started his
Yeah.
business.
So
How do you? I'm
the
looking at.
the news says 2,500 people have been evacuated to Dawson City, the nearest safe area. Yeah, so British Columbia is on fire now, which means Alaska, maybe Washington will be affected.
Seattle, LA could go as far as down south, depending
Yeah.
on the wind.
Although they did say the wind would have carried the smoke out of New York and Philadelphia Sunday.
Okay, well that makes sense. Toronto just cleared up today. So today, officially, Toronto is now smoke-free.
I
Nice.
think my favorite take that I've seen so far on the wildfires is me going to my litmus test for the future of politics, the YouTube comment section,
Yeah.
where the top comment said, "So are we gonna stop? Are we not gonna talk about climate change here?" And the top reply to it with way more likes was, "The fires have existed for well before climate change."
Well,
I have seen comments like that where people were like, "Yep, there's wildfires every year. That's why we got a wildfire season."
so
Yeah.
there are,
Well,
my limit is various Facebook groups that I'm part of. And so the big thing going around right now is that eco-terrorists have crossed Canada and have been independently putting fires in each province.
Oh yeah,
Hey, that's actually-
And
I believe it. I
is this
believe
why
it
there's so much tough on crime rhetoric surrounding these fires? Because I have not understood that yet.
I have not seen any tough on crime rhetoric surrounding the Canadian
I have.
wildfires.
There's been a lot, especially in Nova Scotia, because some of the fires have been attributed to people like throwing cigarette butts out and not like
Well, if you're gonna be tough on any crime, littering seems like a fair one. You know, it is pretty anti-Soviet behavior. Now,
And I've been tempted. Just before it's back to you, I've really wanted to litter at some point. I've never littered, and
don't do
I
it. Man.
want the rush, but I can't bring myself to do it because there's just no reason to do it.
Yeah, so it is genuine anti-Soviet behavior to litter. Now, people say we have wildfire season every year, but the Canadian Interagency Forest Fire Center, CIFFC, claims that this is our worst wildfire season in recorded history. We've already had 2,392 wildfires since the end of
Fucking
winter.
what?
424 wildfires are currently active, and of those 424, only 230 are still out of control.
Sorry, Bennett, did you say in what history was
in
this?
Recorded history,
That's the issue.
we have had the worst wildfire season start ever this year.
Yeah, what about the year before recorded history?
That one was the worst.
I don't know when they started taking fire stats, but I know the Little Ice Age ended in the 19th century, right? Where it used to be like London would get the Thames frozen over every year.
Yeah.
So I assume before recorded history, it was actually, we probably didn't even have a wildfire season.
Now, all this thought about recorded history.
Yeah.
How come there's no thought about the end of history?
Good point, because the next question I have here is, what is to be done about the Canadian wildfires?
Nothing, bros.
Yeah, end of history fans. Nothing is the answer. There's nothing we could do about it.
I think the biggest issue with this is that they're blaming it on, smokers. But I just want to smoke, for God's sake.
That is really the crux of the issue, isn't it? Wildfires are so downstream from so many different effects that there would have to be a major lifestyle overhaul to end wildfires as they currently exist, right? Not going to happen.
So do you think they'll ban smoking with this?
No, I don't think they're going to ban smoking.
I think what they should do is, the ban on smoking. We've partially done it. They could try to ban smoking in cars. I don't know if that's even a thing yet, but no one's going to follow it because this is all on rural highways. So what I think we have to do is we have to start putting more smoking amenities inside cars.
So fucking true. Bring back ashtrays, unironically, and we
need ashtrays. We need the cigarette lighters to come back.
Oh, I still have a cigarette lighter in my car.
Yeah, and a lot of cars of those.
Minis had cigarette lighters until the mid 2010s, right? So sure, you probably still have one.
I think I do.
Yeah.
I would sometimes smoke cigarettes in Shrey's car.
I know my car has a cigarette lighter in it. Although yours is a newer model Camry, Spencer, so maybe you don't have it.
I don't think I do. At least, maybe I just wouldn't know. Maybe I just haven't paid attention.
I
burnt my finger once as a young kid because I like the orange color, so I just touched it with my finger.
It does look incredibly enticing, those cigarette lighters.
It tastes good, too.
All right, moving on from Canadian wildfires, unless you have anything else to
Wait,
add.
so it's over then? There's nothing we can do?
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for an easy solution, maybe we could just hire a fleet of planes to just be flying constantly, dumping that, that foam that they drop on forests to stop fires.
Napalm?
At least one thing I do actually want to talk about is that every single time there is something goes wrong, like a natural disaster, I think they're bringing the army. At what point do we have a peacekeeping corps, which is just going around fixing things as climate change occurs?
At what point do we just have rural martial law, where they're just permanently out there? Yeah.
So I was doing some thinking about this because I was looking up all the general budget cuts that we've had to firefighters, and then the fires come because that's how things work. It turns out the firefighters are the ones starting the fires because they want their jobs back.
I did actually hear there was a wildfire in Alberta recently, right? That the internet was blaming on female firefighters. Do you remember that?
Every time.
Why?
Okay, so there was I'm not saying this is true, right? as Trump would say, people are saying, okay, right?
Yeah.
There was an Alberta firefighters, like, women's in firefighting conference, right? And at the conference, they did, like, a controlled burn, like, as one of the exhibitions, right? Now, as far as I know, there is no proof that this caused the following forest fire that struck Alberta. However,
But people are saying.
people were saying that, like, listen, there is no evidence of a connection between these events. But right after that conference, there was a major wildfire in the area.
I found the article.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
People are saying that, yes.
Now,
WesternStandard.news. What is this?
So the Western Standard is a trash news agency from Southern Alberta.
Yeah.
Their entire shtick is they're extremely right wing.
Mm-hmm.
And usually don't really trust everything they do. In fact, don't trust most of what they say. But they do have this article right here.
all right, guys, we have a source. It's no longer people are saying. This is cited information.
Yeah. Well, I love this article because just skimming it, they spelt cavalry. They say the cavalry was called in to help fight the blaze, which, first of all, no, it wasn't. You know? Second of all, they spelled it Calvary, which is the hill Jesus was crucified on.
But thinking of bringing in the military to do everything for us. One of the things I've been thinking about recently is the whole like neoconservatism thing, where it's like we have the policing for internal struggles and all of that, and internal order, and then we have the military as just the general band-aid for either external struggle or more reinforcement for internal struggle. So if that trend keeps on happening, then yes, just about every issue would be solved by like minimal ability followed by military intervention to solve it.
So what you're saying is the future is a defunded fire department that literally calls in the cavalry.
Yes, yeah, it kind of looks like that's what we're gunning for right now. But, you know, I digress.
I kind of agree, yeah. There's a lot of... One thing that I don't have the recording of, I don't know if I can't share audio through Discord on Linux, unfortunately, but the recording of the TTC's Pride Month door chime.
Oh, heaven.
Yeah.
Heaven.
What was that?
So, sure, the TTC is a government owned. It's like a crown corporation, right?
Yeah.
And they get funding from the city, right? It's like they're a government institution, and because they're a government institution in the age of neoliberalism, they're under constant scrutiny, constant cutbacks, that sort of thing, right? So they decided for Pride Month they were going to have like a local LGBT like choir do some sort of sing thing, like where they would sing, and then they started playing this song before announcements on the TTC.
Right.
But
since this is episode 0, I'm just gonna see if I can blast it into my mic.
Yeah. So the thing
it
is,
wouldn't get any worse.
The announcement infrastructure on the TTC is decayed significantly. So I sent a screenshot in our house group chat. What is that awful sound you're playing before and after announcements? It sounds like a homeless person screeching or someone goofing off on the mic. People on the platform are looking around to see who's making the noise.
Where is this?
Let's see if I can play the audio.
I found it. No, that is not it being blown out because he's playing it into the mic. That is just what it sounds like.
Yeah, that wonderful, amazing. Literally, quite possibly the most neoliberal thing to ever happen.
It might be.
Like literally a Pride Month thing ruined by decaying infrastructure.
This is a bit out of like a Modern Family episode or something.
Yeah, literally, clown shit. It can't be true, but I do have sources in Toronto that claim that they did hear it. Elisa heard it on the train and thought that there was a
People
chicken.
are saying.
Elisa heard it on the train and thought there was like a wild chicken loose, but no, it was just the announcement music.
What chicken sounds like that?
Like a rooster or something, you know?
Maybe a rooster might be it.
Yeah.
I always wondered why sounds in particular are so bad, because especially now, like getting something to sound good is extremely cheap.
Don't clip that. Don't compare that to the audio for this episode.
Okay, well, yeah, maybe it's not $25 headphones cheap.
Yeah.
But we'll come back to that when I have good audio again. You guys are sounding good, so.
Now.
Okay.
Yeah. So election predictions. So we're moving on to polling. Speaking of the neoliberal state.
Look, we all know what dogs do to polls.
Yeah. 338 Canada federal projection. Okay. Now, we're looking at, right now, a conservative minority government. 58% chance conservative minority, 5% chance conservative majority, 35% chance liberal minority, and my favorite, 1% chance of a tie.
Yes.
No.
There is a very strong possibility that there could be a situation where the Liberals plus the NDP plus the Green are less than 50%, and the Conservatives are also less than 50%. Conservatives plus Bloc are also less than 50%.
Holy.
So there is enough of a chance that we could just have a parliament which is just completely in chaos.
Like, no one has confidence in the House.
Exactly.
Now, 338 Canada does say odds of winning the most seats. Conservatives, 64%. Okay,
Yeah.
so we're definitely we're almost.
So this is
certainly-
probably like 85% at least.
Yeah. Liberals, 35%. Tie, 1%. Now, we're so back because NDP, there is a chance, less than 1%. Unfortunately, there is no chance of a Bloc or a Green sweep.
This is the we're not legally allowed to say 0%.
So what I'm watching at, so I'm not sure if you guys have been following, but there's going to be 4 by-elections happening.
No, we have not been following.
Okay.
To answer your question.
There's going to be 4 by-elections in about 2 weeks or so, and most of them don't matter, frankly. We know who the winner is going to be, basically. But one of them is in Manitoba South. This is in a place called Portage-la Prairie. Portage-Lisgar. And Portage-Lisgar, last time, the top party was the Conservatives.
Yeah.
The second place party was the PPC. And this was the PPC's best seat in all of Canada.
This is a federal by-election?
Yep, federal by-election.
Now, interestingly, 338's federal simulator, which lets you crank numbers up and down, if you crank PPC to their max confidence interval, they still don't win any seats.
It's over.
Like, here's where
there's no way for me to manipulate this simulator such that the PPCs get even one seat, no matter what the balance is of other parties.
This gets where it gets exciting. The leader of the PPC is running in Manitoba, even though he's from Quebec, but he's running in Manitoba in this seat. And the former finance minister for Manitoba tried to run for the Conservatives, but he got kicked out for being way too left-wing. And they brought in a far-right PC candidate instead. So they're like, the Conservatives are really worried about losing this seat to the PPC.
Well, 338 Canada says it ain't happening. I did just post a screenshot of me cranking the sliders in all directions to maximize the PPC's chance. Still projected at 0, despite having twice the vote in this theoretical universe as the Green Party. Now, the NDP...
Oh, wait, this is federal, right? So this is like Poilievre?
This is Poilievre, yeah.
Okay, now let me make a prediction based on the streets.
Yeah.
The streets being the YouTube comment section. I think there's a very high probability that the Conservatives win this.
I think all the statisticians are saying that.
Just about guaranteed. Everyone in the comment section is talking about how he's going to save us from the tyranny of Trudeau and the housing crisis and how he's going to stop inflation and all of that. And yeah, that's each of the streets he's winning.
I think yes.
Oh,
I think if you listen to the polls, to the streets, to the analysts, to Canada's top pundits, the Theory Night in Canada podcast, Poilievre will win the next election, as it currently stands. As the numbers are pretty close, though. We're looking at on average, 34% CPC popular vote, 31% LPC popular vote. Now, one thing we wanted to discuss today was NDP voting efficiency, worst in the nation. 20% of the popular vote, 3 times the Bloc Québécois, and fewer seats.
Now, I did want to highlight that when it comes to the vote, even though it looks like Conservatives are going to win, there is a decent chance that it's still going to become a Liberal leader, a Liberal government.
It does say 35% chance of that.
No. Even if the Liberals lose the number of seats.
Yeah.
Just because of the way the coalitions work and the way that people are grouping with each other, there's a very strong chance of a Liberal NDP confidence and supply agreement.
Well, that's what I'm saying. At Liberal NDP, there is a 34% chance. Let me clip this and send it to you. This is a chance of each coalition happening. So my favorite, 338, thinks there is a 56% chance of a Conservative NDP bloc reaching 170 seats. Now, would Jagmeet Singh ever agree to this? He does not seem like the coalition with the Tories type.
Okay, so there's 2 important parts. First is that coalition is the easiest way of getting the seats, but the other way is abstaining, right? Yeah. That's what happened in 2011 or 2009, 10, that era under Harper, where the Liberals just abstained from everything instead of fighting against the Conservatives. And that allowed the Conservatives to have majorities, quote unquote, every single time. Mm-hmm. So the NDP could theoretically just abstain.
I guess, and then the Conservatives stay ahead. That an interesting outcome, but do you think? I guess that would only happen if the NDP doesn't have the opportunity to team up the Liberals to form a government, right?
There's a higher chance that the Conservatives will get a minority, and then the Liberals will abstain because they're going through a leadership contest and not just do anything, allowing the Conservatives to just coast on.
Interesting. And then when they come back from their contest, do you think they would trigger an election?
Then maybe not. Depends on the leader. If it's a leader who's waiting and more patient, or if it's a leader who's more fiery and aggressive, it really depends.
I guess so.
So with them being Liberals and the chances that they will not control the narrative at all.
No, they'll be convinced they are controlling the narrative. That's a key part. They'll be very, very convinced that everyone loves them and is on their side the whole time.
Yes.
Yeah.
They couldn't communicate it properly how much they love it.
Now, one thing that is not shown, and it does say in the fine print on 338, they do not show every party combination. There are some schizo coalitions that I think would be funny. Conservative PPC Green. Is there any path to that coalition?
If PPC wins this seat in Portage-Lisgar, then yes. Oh my God, yes.
Conservative. I think a Green. Elizabeth May's back in charge, so maybe a Green Tory is unlikely.
Okay. So there's 2 leaders of the Greens right now, right? There's Jonathan Pedino and then Elizabeth May. Now, I will say I have good sources who told me that Jonathan Pedino was caught buying some lunch a couple of weeks ago with a plastic fork. Ooh. So I don't think chances are good for him.
It might be over. It might be Jover. It might be Jonathan over.
As for the PPC, now it is important to note that the leader of the PPC absolutely hates the Conservatives. His goal is not to win. His goal is just to screw the Conservatives over.
Bernier. It's like the PPC is like the cult of Bernier.
Yeah.
Right. So whatever he says, I guess goes. So if he's like under no circumstances, the thing is, I don't know if Bernier really feels screwed over by Poilievre, right? In the same way that he feels screwed over by Scheer.
He does. Bernier felt like he's been always on the side of the far right, but the far right's leaving him.
Oh, and now he's going to take his ball and go home, is what you're saying. He's going to be like, well, if the far right doesn't love me, then I'm not letting them do anything.
Exactly.
Poilievre being in charge of the Conservatives does kind of make the PPC like pointless. Like, what's the point, right?
Yeah, it's the same kind of thing where the Greens are kind of pointless because everyone else is pretty good. It's getting better and better at the environment to the point where the Greens are not the best at the environment anymore.
Who is? The NDP or the Liberals?
It depends on really specific cases. I know the Liberals have a better rating overall when it comes to the environment, but there is the entire pipeline thing.
If only there was a book we could read about that.
Now, speaking of schizo coalitions, I was under the impression that Quebec, this Quebec sovereignty movement sees the Liberals as like a federalist boogeyman, right? In a way transcending even the Conservative Party. But 338 does put a 32% chance of a Liberal plus Bloc majority.
So that's impossible, because very recently the leader of the Parti Québécois. Now I understand that Parti Québécois is not the same as a BQ, but they share a lot of overlap.
Yeah.
The Parti Québécois has successfully convinced the House in Quebec to investigate election tampering and illegal tampering within the referendum vote in 95 and 8. So they're really going after Liberals right now.
Yeah, so that's what I was thinking. The Liberals and the BQ seems more schizo than Conservatives, PPC, Greens. Just as not like in a meta sense, whereas the Conservatives, PPCs, Greens would be a government by schizos.
Yeah.
I think Liberals Bloc is like a government conceived from schizophrenia. Conservatives plus Bloc is at 54%.
That's pretty likely, actually.
Yeah. Liberals plus Green, less than 1%. Liberals by themselves, less than 1%. Liberals, Greens, and NDP together, only 5%. And it doesn't even list the NDP's chance of reaching 170 seats, which I assume is as close to negative as you can get.
They're not legally allowed to say 0.
I did want to showcase this amazing. So Bernier is famous for his cult of personality, but my favorite cult of personality is this one, where this is the official constitution for the governing party of Quebec.
Chapitre 3, les instances. Le chef de la coalition.
So this is the official constitution.
Yeah, so for those listening, because I'm not recording the video, just audio, it says the chief or boss of the coalition is Mr. Francois Legault. So the coalition of the CAQ mentions Francois Legault as the enshrined monarch of Quebec.
So in order to get rid of him, you have to first change the constitution of the party.
Now, the CAQ, Legault created that, right? He was a former PQ guy.
He started a company called Air Transat, where he was the CEO, and then he became a Parti Québécois guy, and then he started the coalition.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I don't think the Bloc and the Liberals are going to team up. That's definitely not happening. But who knows? PPC might win a seat, although I doubt it. I think the PPC will not win a seat. Especially now that Poilievre is in charge, that market's kind of captured. Now, you did mention that the NDP having 3 times more than the Bloc, but winning fewer seats makes sense in the context of the Bloc being a single province party. But why is the NDP's voting efficiency still so much worse proportionately than the Liberals and the Conservatives, the other 2 main parties?
Well, have you guys heard of Duverger's law?
Of what's law?
Duverger. So Duverger's law is a law that basically in first past the post, things will eventually go to a 2-party system.
Yeah.
Now, this hasn't happened in Canada. Surprisingly enough, Canada actually has 6 major parties right now, which have chance of getting 5% of the vote, which is very, very high, all things considered. But most people in Canada vote out of fear of the Conservatives or fear of the Liberals.
Mm-hmm.
And so the reasons why the NDP had such a hard time is because they have to convince people that voting for NDP will not cause the Conservatives to go through the middle and win by accident.
Mm-hmm.
Places like Alberta, Manitoba, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, it's it's NDP Conservative fights mostly. So over there, the NDP have a lot higher percentages. But in places like Ontario where the Liberals win, convincing people that the Liberals can't win is a really, really hard sell.
Mm-hmm. I guess that makes sense. Yeah, I guess strategic voting is the answer to that then. And I guess a hidden effect of the NDP having the same voting efficiency problem as the Conservatives, where the Conservatives have like 90% of the vote in Alberta, right?
Yeah.
Which makes their popular vote percentage look too high compared to the seats they actually win.
I think the real superpower is just becoming overall disillusioned with elections to the point where you're comfortable voting for whoever you want to.
That is true, yes. I will, I'll just vote Communist Party down ticket every time.
The Liberals are in a really interesting place right now because they keep winning by very, very small margins in each of their seats. And so we're getting to the point where they're so efficient, but if they lose, say, like 2% of the vote in each seat, they suddenly lose like 80, 90 of their seats right away.
Oh, they're winning by 1 everywhere then.
Yeah, well, the idea is that if their efficiency is great until you're just below a margin, then you become super inefficient because you get like 20, like what happened in the Ontario election, where they got 25% of votes and only 8 seats out of 124.
So I guess there is this. It's kind of like an optimization problem where the Liberals are basically the maximal first past the post efficiency, where they're just winning every riding by 1 vote. But that makes them susceptible to a extreme swing where as soon as they become slightly unpopular, it's over.
Yes.
Now I'm interested. It's interesting that despite the looming sense of dread that has fallen over, I think, this country and our neighbors to the south, the Liberals aren't less popular than they are.
No.
Is that just because the Conservatives are just having a moment? They're kind of schizoing out right now, or
no? I genuinely think it's because the big difference between the U.S. and Canada in this system is that the U.S. is optimized for statewide elections, right? Where the electoral college is based on the entire state, right? If you win 51% of state, you win.
Yeah.
In Canada, because it's 338 separate elections, you're really not targeting entire provinces. You're really just you're micro-targeting each individual riding. And the Liberals have spent millions of dollars in making extremely fine detailed data hubs that can identify each individual person and then corroborate what issues are interesting to them and how do we make sure they vote for us, or if they're not voting for us, they don't vote at all. And that's really, really powerful with the Liberal Party, allowing them to continuously win and be in government with like less than 33% of the vote.
Yeah, well, it just sounds like they have a real machine. Like it's like the most sophisticated party mechanism of any party in Canada.
There's a reason why they are the most successful party in all of the Western world.
Mm-hmm. Depressing.
I think as well, Canada lags behind the States, but generally ends up in fairly similar predicaments. It's not 1-to-1. Shrey, no need to interrupt me here. But it's, I think we're kind of at a point where people are seeing the right in the States, and there's a lot of people who would kind of be more chill with right-wing stuff who are slowly becoming less chill with it, since we've just seen the 5-year early thing, where there have been a few big decisions that have been pretty dang bad. So I think that's also something that might help the Liberal Party a little bit here.
So that's actually something I want to talk about, where, right, usually speaking, the US is 10 years ahead of Canada politically, generally like overarching. What's fascinating to me is that if Bennett's prediction of 2032 does come true, and we're going to have to explain that in episode 1.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
If that's true, how will that impact the 10-year mark for Canada? Because Canada's structurally a lot more stable than the US. So is that where it finally completely decouples?
Yeah, we'll check in for this later. Remember, guys, make sure to study the mistakes of the future, or else you're bound to repeat them for the first time.
Okay, I've done a skimming of this article. In New Brunswick, out on the East Coast, a province that has escaped fire by twice now, Nova Scotia and then Quebec, have changed their pronoun policy, presumably to avoid the wrath of God like their neighbors. The New Brunswick Education Minister Bill Hogan has announced that the province's educational pronoun policy has changed. So, the previous policy was that Schools and teachers must respect the chosen names and pronouns of students of any age, and that has been amended to only students over the age of 16 have the right to go by any name or pronoun officially. Now, they have clarified that unofficially, there's nothing stopping you from doing whatever you want. However, report cards and attendances and stuff like that will not be changed for students under the age of 16 without a parent's express permission.
I love this kind of shit because it's like it doesn't really do anything. Like you said, like unless you're just an asshole, if a kid's like, oh, I want to do this or I want you to call me this, you just kind of do it because they're a kid. It doesn't matter. But this just really opens up opportunity for grown teachers to just dunk on kids.
That is true. This is definitely like the mean teacher law.
It's like we're okay with a little bit of teacher bullying for this particular minority group.
Yeah.
I'm trying to understand. So the opposite is that, like, or what's allowed theoretically is that you can change a pronoun before the age of 16, right? On report cards and official documents.
That is correct.
Except, like, out of these, which documents do parents actually see? It's just the report card.
Report cards, yeah. I mean,
so, like, everything internal, why does
Actually,
it
let me jump back in here. Sorry. The best part about this is that if we're going with the, like, allow teachers to bully certain minorities law, the best part about it is now the kid has to go to their parents and be like, Mom, can you write the teacher to tell him to stop bullying me? You have to, like, your only method of fighting back is to beg your parents.
Now,
Yeah.
Here we are. When asked about the ambiguity this introduces, Education Minister Bill Hogan said the province won't go on a witch hunt and check into classrooms to see how teachers are referring to students, but this change means teachers don't have to, quote, do something contrary to parents' wishes. So I assume this is because the Education Minister is tired of receiving angry phone calls from right-wing parents, right?
Yeah.
This may be less of a let the teachers do some bullying law and more of a stop bullying me kind of law. They did also change the washrooms policy. The old policy mandated that each school should have at least one gender-neutral washroom. The new policy keeps this line, but specifies that those washrooms should be private washrooms rather than public washrooms. The review also added a line saying each school must have a private universal change room. So they're adding gender-neutral changing rooms. That seems like it would be more controversial than any pronoun thing.
That sounds like it would be by far the most controversial of anything here.
Great. What?
Although it does says private universal changing rooms, so maybe it's like a stall setup. I doubt it.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
But yeah, that seems way more controversial. I won't be surprised if that hits the news in bigger detail soon.
So I do want to highlight the context of the New Brunswick polling, where New Brunswick is split up basically into two parts, right?
Yeah.
You got the Francophone side and then the Anglo side.
What is PA? Is that like the schizo right-wing party?
They were, except a majority of the schizo right-wing party got absorbed into Conservatives when all of them crossed the floor.
Oh, classic. Although it doesn't seem like they had very many to begin with to cross with.
Well, these are not like these are numbers, right? So they had like 13.
These are polling numbers.
Yeah, polling numbers.
All right. So for viewers, the numbers between the PCs and Liberals are pretty close, with the Liberals having a general lead.
Yes.
Yeah. So what does that tell us, Trey?
So generally speaking, New Brunswick split into two parts: Francophone and Anglophone. The Francophone sides are like diehard Liberals. They will not vote anyone outside the Liberals.
Yeah.
Basically meaning that the Liberals have a extremely inefficient vote where they'll rack up big numbers and then still lose the election.
Mm-hmm.
For the Conservatives, all they need to do is keep their base motivated. So I just think this is a way to keep their base motivated and like, oh yeah, okay, they are giving lip service to the far right.
Yeah.
Especially because they absorbed the PA and the angry part of the PA is trying to restart the party, but they keep failing because the Conservatives are just been the far right enough to give them lip service.
I see. Well, I think you're right that this is kind of a lip service move, especially because this announcement was made basically after school is out, right? Like it's June. Yeah, like no one's going to the bathroom right now or having their pronouns checked because no one's at school, especially because the policy does not come into effect until July 1st. So I think they're just hoping that they can score some quick social conservative points now, and then the controversy will die out by September.
That's what I'm expecting.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Now, the CBC sidebar here tells me WestJet is shutting down discount airline Swoop. Never taken it.
What?
Swoop is shutting down, yep.
Oh, that's huge.
I've been an Air Canada Jazz guy myself.
Yeah.
Now,
I'm trying to convince Malika to take Flare, but she refuses to.
I've never heard. What is that?
Flare?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Essentially Swoop.
No, it's way, way more sketchy looking. There was a flight from Thunder Bay to Toronto for $9.
Flare Airlines is just like, look, you can take this out, but there's no insurance policy, and also we have confirmed that the engine is missing some bolts.
One of the craziest flights I've ever taken was a flight from it was in the Maritimes between two islands. I don't remember if it was like PEI to New Brunswick or Cape Breton to Newfoundland or something, but it was like it was basically like a bare interior plane that was an extremely loud turboprop. Like the thing sounded like I was about to jump over Normandy on D-Day or something.
The funniest flight I've heard was one of my vice principal at my school. His last name was Hamilton, so he's Mr. Hamilton.
Yeah.
And he told me that when I think it was WestJet expanded to the Hamilton airport, they gave anyone whose last name is Hamilton, they gave them a free ticket.
Nice.
So he went to Edmonton for the day.
Okay, now, in international news, former President Trump indicted on 37 charges of violating the Espionage Act for having classified documents at his house for years. Now, anyone who follows U.S. news, which is not Shrey, the only Canadian who has never heard a piece of U.S. news in his life, Trump has been in trouble for this for years, where he's had classified documents that he just took home from the White House, sitting in Mar-a-Lago now, which is like his resort that he owns. Let me see if I can find I found a funny quote. I think it was the CBC. Yeah, here we are. They were stored in a bathroom, a ballroom, his bedroom, the shower, and a storage room. Some were even scattered on the floor. Now, here's a picture of the boxes in question, sending to you guys. This picture was provided by the CBC and includes classified documents that are jeopardizing not just American national security, but Canadian national security.
Is the CBC going to post this?
Yeah. It doesn't include any details in the documents. That box contains Five Eyes documents.
Okay.
Now, Trump has had these boxes for years now. The Justice Department has been begging him to give them back, and he's constantly refused. And now he's been indicted. And his response was that the Biden administration was coming after him for the, quote, box hoax.
Like, no one cares, right?
Like, that was my immediate follow-up question. It's like, oh, he's been indicted, is it? Because every morning I wake up and it's like Trump has been arrested 6 times and is going to get arrested 8 more times tomorrow.
Now the CBC does
nothing ever happens.
Yeah, the CBC does have like I don't remember if it's the CBC or another site. Oh yes, it is the CBC. They have like a tracker of Trump's legal problems ongoing. Yeah, so here we go.
I remember one time when I woke up in the morning and I saw an article that's just like, oh, Trump is getting arrested on Tuesday. And it was like the top 10 news stories on, dare I say its name, Reddit.
Yeah.
And all I could think was, I don't gamble, and for some reason I didn't start, but I genuinely considered putting $1,000 in the fact that he would not get arrested. And he didn't get arrested on Tuesday, I'll tell you that much.
Well, the Tuesday thing was the hush money to Storm Daniels case, which is listed here. So I do have in my notes, It says this is not the Stormy Daniels case. This is a second case. So he is now on trial for 2 things. With 2 more to follow, allegedly. Trump's involvement in the January 6th riot has had a grand jury convened to determine if they should go to trial. And he was caught, basically on camera, trying to rig the 2020 election. I don't know if you heard about that.
Look, in terms of the January 6th riot, I'm going to make the call. No face, no case. I didn't see him in any of the videos. Yep. So he's probably getting off on that one.
Yeah, he's not going to jail for January 6th. Sorry, folks. The only one of these that he even should be punished for, if you even care about punishing him, is the 2020 Georgia election rigging.
But isn't the U.S. constantly doing foreign election interference?
Yeah, so it's about time they had some domestic election interference.
Oh, wait, sorry. You mean Georgia the state?
Georgia the state. I don't know if you didn't hear about this, Trey, because you don't follow American news, but Trump called the Attorney General's office or something in Georgia, and the Attorney General started recording it, and it was Trump being like, listen, you got to find me another couple thousand votes. I don't care how you do it. This is after the election had concluded. He's like, you got to stuff the ballot boxes. You got to do something,
Yeah.
So maybe he'll...
Did they find
he was probably just joking.
Now, no face, no case. It was just a recording. Could have been a deep fake. How will Republicans react to this is the main question, because there is, for good reason, a precedent of not prosecuting former presidents, because every president is evil and does evil things. So let's say Biden gets out of office and the Republicans start trudging up 40 cases of him, getting fake jobs for his son in Ukraine or whatever, right? This could, they might be getting a little trigger happy on Trump is what I'm saying, and there might be a little bit of blowback on the Democrats.
So there almost certainly will be. We all know about, to bring it up for the second time today, something about liberals and controlling the narrative, where they're going to take the whole process to slowly dig through this, and then something's going to go wrong with Biden, and then instantly there's going to be 12 charges on him.
He's going to get... Biden is getting executed January 22nd, 2024. As soon as he leaves office, the DC SWAT team is gunning down Joe Biden and Kamala Harris for violating some obscure statute.
We might have to censor this.
So, I don't know much about the Georgia stuff. I thought it was the Russian Georgia one, but you mentioned the deep fake thing, right? Now I do know that the Republicans have started doing AI generated ads.
Oh,
do you think this is a clever play to help make things sound more fake when it comes to these indictments or these situations?
I think we're people have been hand wringing about how we are in a post-truth society. Look, everyone's lying all the time. If you think we're in a post-truth society now, wait till this actually starts happening, where deepfakes get so good it becomes literally impossible to distinguish truth from fiction, like slander from reality, right? Where I swear, the 2030, if there's even is a 2032 election, it will probably be completely scandal-free, because both candidates will be able to legitimately claim every single video of them doing something wrong is AI generated, right?
I think it kind of really hits a nice blend where we're in the kind of news gotcha culture where anything any news agency wants to do is find every single thing that a leader has done that's technically wrong and then publish it in 8 publications. Yeah. And now there's going to be just such a mess of every single leader is getting caught breathing in the wrong direction every day. Plus there's going to be even more accusations and even more evidence to sift through that it's just going to become a pile. Because it already is a pile. No one really cares about this stuff much anymore. And I think it's just going to add on to that, where it's just who really cares about politics?
I think, there will definitely be a mass checking out once deepfakes come too good,
Especially with the attention spans dropping already.
I think what we need to do is future episode, get Harrison on here. I'm sure he has an incredible take on how AI will affect politics in the 2030s,
We can let him talk for 20 minutes. He might need a 5-second meditation, or a 5-minute meditation in it.
Yeah. So this is what we do. During our 10-hour episode on the mayors of Toronto, we have a 10-minute break where we get Harrison to speak about that, and then we kick him out immediately and keep going.
I would love that. I actually, thinking of the mayors, I do have a theory that one of the mayors running does not exist.
What I'm actually genuinely excited about is that since most of the mayors are getting no coverage, and this podcast is the only coverage, I'm trying to calculate how many mayors are going to reach out angrily at us.
I don't think any will. I don't think anyone will have heard of this until long after the mayoral election is completed.
Yeah, we're going to post this on the Toronto subreddit, and I'm sure there's at least 10 of those mayors watching that.
Honestly, if we posted to the Toronto subreddit and it blew up, they probably at least one mayoral race candidacy would see it. We could probably get an actual.
You might.
We might be able to get one of the more schizo ones as a guest.
I was thinking there are a couple mayoral candidates here, and actually, there's only like 5 that I think are any good at all so far. But with a couple of them, I genuinely think that with an extremely small donation, you could get someone on a podcast.
No, you don't have to do that. There's one candidate I saw yesterday where there's a button saying "invite him to your podcast."
Yo,
so we can just get that.
So real. All right, well. Okay, Shirley, you have to get going 7 minutes ago.
We're at the 50-minute mark.
Yep.
So we'll cut the recording.
We'll do this after the next episode, I guess. My article.
We'll figure out when we're free next. So we have that set.
Well, we'll discuss that off mic. See you later, folks.
Oh.